On March 4th, 2025, a silver Toyota Camry pulled into my shop with its hazard lights still flashing and 3 warning lights glowing on the dash. The owner was a retired teacher in her late 60s. She had just left a dealership 20 minutes earlier holding a quote that nearly made her cry: $1,887. Engine control module reflash, throttle body replacement, idle air control diagnosis, 2 hours of labor, taxes on top. Today, I'm revealing the exact 30-second reset Toyota built into every modern model that erases problems most dealerships will quote you 4 figures to fix. And once you understand why this exists, you'll never panic over a Toyota warning light again. She handed me the keys with a kind of resigned exhaustion. The car was a 2018 Camry, just over 80,000 miles, and it had always been serviced on time. Her husband had passed 2 years earlier, and this car was the last big purchase they made together. She told me she'd been saving for a granddaughter's college fund, and the dealer estimate had just taken a serious bite out of it. I told her to give me 30 minutes. I didn't pop the hood. I didn't connect a scanner. I didn't order a single part. I sat in the driver's seat, performed a sequence Toyota themselves publishes in their factory service literature, let the engine idle for a stretch, and when she came back from the waiting room, every light was gone. The idle was smooth. The throttle response was crisp. The transmission shifted like it just left the factory. She didn't believe me at first. She drove it around the block 3 times before she finally accepted that nothing was actually wrong with her car. This is happening every single day in America. Toyotas, in particular. Toyota engineered their vehicles around a learning philosophy that other manufacturers never adopted as aggressively. Every modern Toyota constantly adapts to how you drive, what fuel you use, how cold your starts are, how aggressively you accelerate, even how your right foot rests on the pedal at idle. The engine control unit stores all of it. The transmission control module stores all of it. The throttle position learned values store all of it. When any one of those learned values drifts, gets corrupted, or simply becomes outdated, the car does not fail. It just gets confused. Confused Toyotas throw warning lights that look terrifying but mean almost nothing. Here is the part most owners are never told. When you replace a Toyota battery, the vehicle's electronic control unit can lose power long enough to forget some of its adaptive values, but not all. The car wakes up with half its memory intact and half of it wiped, and that mismatch creates symptoms that mimic catastrophic failure. Rough idle, hesitation on acceleration, surging at stoplights, check engine lights, vehicle stability control warnings, and traction control errors. The same pattern occurs after a dead battery, after a long jump start, or whenever a technician disconnects power without performing the proper reinitialization. This Camry had a new battery installed 3 weeks earlier at a tire shop during a routine inspection. That single act started a chain reaction the dealership could not see because they were not looking for it. They saw warning codes. They saw fuel trim values out of range. They saw throttle position values that did not match expected baselines. And every one of those readings pointed toward parts on a shelf they could sell her. But nothing was broken. Not one component. The car simply needed Toyota's documented idle relearn procedure. This is the exact procedure Toyota publishes for technicians to perform after any battery service, throttle body cleaning, electronic control unit reset, or extended power loss event. It takes about 30 seconds of input from the driver's seat. There is no charge for it, there is no part required, and it solves more Toyota warning lights than any single repair in their service catalog. I want to be very clear about something before I walk you through exactly how this works. This is not a trick. It is not a hack. It is not a backdoor someone discovered on Reddit. This is a procedure published in Toyota's own factory service literature, used by Toyota master technicians and verified by every reputable Toyota independent shop in the country. The reason most owners have never heard of it is the same reason most don't know how their alternator works. Nobody bothered to teach them, and the people who did know had a financial reason not to mention it. Let me explain what's actually happening inside your Toyota, because this is where the picture really clicks. Your engine doesn't run on mechanical timing the way cars did in the 1990s. It runs on a constant negotiation between sensors and the ECU. The throttle body in particular is fully electronic on every Toyota built since around 2002. There is no cable connecting your pedal to the throttle. When you press the accelerator, you're telling a sensor to send a voltage signal to the ECU. The ECU then decides how far to open a motor-controlled butterfly valve inside the throttle body. At idle, that valve is barely open, a few degrees, sometimes less. And the exact position is learned over time based on engine temperature, altitude, air conditioning load, and dozens of other variables. When the ECU loses power, it loses the fine-tuned idle position it took thousands of miles to learn. When it wakes up, it uses a default value. That default is intentionally conservative because Toyota would rather you have a slightly rough idle than a stalled engine. But that conservative default doesn't match your air filter condition, your altitude, your fuel quality, or your throttle body's exact mechanical wear. So the car runs rough. The ECU tries to compensate, it overcompensates. Fuel trims swing, idle hunts, warning lights start firing, and every one of those symptoms looks like a catastrophic failure when in reality, the ECU is just waiting to be retaught. The reset itself is almost embarrassingly simple. Sit in the driver's seat with the engine off, insert the key, and turn it to the on position, not to start. That's the position where all the dash lights illuminate, but the engine does not crank. On push-button start vehicles, press the button twice without your foot on the brake. Let the dash stay lit for 3 seconds. Then press the gas pedal all the way to the floor and hold it firmly for around 10 seconds. Some Toyota technicians pair this with a quick 5-press pump of the pedal at full travel within 5 seconds, depending on the model year. Release the pedal. Turn the key off. Wait 20 seconds for the system to power down completely. Start the engine normally, and here is the part everyone skips. Allow it to idle for 10 to 15 minutes without touching anything. No radio, no air conditioning, no revving. Just let it sit and breathe until the cooling fans cycle on at least once. That is the entire procedure. A few seconds of pedal work plus a quiet, idle, relearn cycle. What is happening during that sequence is the ECU is being told to wipe its throttle position learned values, accept the current position as the new zero baseline, and begin rebuilding its idle map from scratch. The 10 to 15 minute idle gives the ECU time to actually learn correctly. Most people skip that part and wonder why the reset seems half-finished. The reset is not done until the relearn is done. You also need to drive the car gently for 20 minutes afterward, through a mix of stop and go and steady cruising, so the long-term fuel trims have a chance to rebuild around real-world conditions instead of garage idle alone. The Camry I mentioned earlier had 3 warning lights, a rough idle, and surging. After that procedure, a 12-minute idle, and a short test drive, every symptom was gone. I gave the car back to the owner and refused to charge her. I told her if she wanted to thank me, she could tell other Toyota owners what really happened to her car. Now, I want to be honest about the boundaries of this. The worst thing I could do is leave you thinking every Toyota warning light is solvable in 30 seconds. It is not. A failed mass airflow sensor will throw codes that a reset cannot clear permanently. A bad oxygen sensor will cause fuel trims to drift beyond what a relearn can correct. A throttle body so caked with carbon, the motor cannot move. The plate will need cleaning before any reset will hold. A failing ignition coil will misfire regardless of how perfectly the ECU is calibrated. The reset is not a cure. It is a filter. It removes corrupted data so you can see what is actually broken underneath. That filter is what dealerships skip. I do not think most dealer technicians are deliberately dishonest. I think the system they work in pushes them toward part replacement because that is what their hours are billed against, what their warranty claims are reimbursed for, and what their service writers know how to sell. A 30-second reset does not fit on a repair order. It does not generate a labor code. It does not open a parts ticket. So it gets bypassed in favor of throttle body replacements, reflashing the electronic control unit, and diagnostic fees that do not actually diagnose anything. The customer pays. The car gets a new part it did not need. And the symptoms often come back within months because the underlying data corruption was never addressed. There are specific moments when you should always perform this reset before authorizing any repair. After any battery replacement. After any jump start that took more than a few minutes. After throttle body cleaning. After driving with a low or dying battery for an extended period. After any work that required disconnecting the negative terminal. After any extended period of the car sitting unused, especially in cold weather. And any time you see a check engine light combined with vehicle stability control and traction control warnings appearing at the same moment, which is Toyota's classic signature for an electronic miscommunication rather than a mechanical fault. There are also moments when you should not rely on this reset alone. If your car is actively misfiring, with a rough running condition that shakes the whole vehicle, you have a real ignition or fuel delivery problem. If your engine is overheating, no reset will help. If you smell raw fuel, see smoke, or hear knocking, those are mechanical symptoms that need physical diagnosis. The reset is for soft failures, electronic confusion, and adaptive memory corruption. It is not for hardware death. I have watched a quiet shift in how Toyotas behave as they age. They do not break the way older cars did. They drift. The ECU slowly accumulates compensations for sensors that aged, fuel that varied in quality, climates that shifted with seasons, and driving patterns that changed. Every one of those compensations gets stored. Layered on top of each other, they create a car that feels off without any single thing being wrong. Owners describe it as the car just not feeling like it used to. They blame age, they blame mileage, they start considering trade-ins. Most of the time, what they actually need is for the ECU to forget what it thinks it knows and learn the car again from scratch. That is why this 30-second reset is so much more powerful than it sounds. It is not just fixing one symptom. It gives the entire vehicle permission to recalibrate around current reality instead of remembered history. After the reset and the relearn drive, fuel economy often improves. Shift quality smooths out. Idle stabilizes. Throttle response sharpens. The car feels like itself again because for the first time in possibly years, it is making decisions based on accurate data instead of stacked compensations. There is a quieter version of the same reset that works even on Toyotas where the pedal procedure feels finicky. Disconnect the negative battery terminal. Press the brake pedal for 30 seconds to drain residual capacitor voltage from the modules. Leave it disconnected for at least 15 minutes. Reconnect. Then perform a 10 to 15 minute warm idle relearn, followed by a gentle drive. The end result is identical. The ECU forgets, restarts from baseline, and rebuilds. Some technicians prefer this method on older Camrys, RAV4s, Highlanders, and Tacomas because it is harder to do wrong. Either path works. The point is the same. You are forcing the brain to stop trusting old data. I want to leave you with one piece of advice that is worth more than any repair I could perform in my shop. Before you authorize any Toyota repair quoted at over a few $100s, especially anything involving throttle bodies, electronic control units, idle air control, or vague drivability complaints, ask the shop one question. Did you perform the idle relearn procedure before diagnosis? Watch their reaction. A good shop will say yes and have notes to prove it. A shop that fumbles the question or talks around it is a shop that may be about to charge you for a problem you do not actually have. If this changed the way you look at your Toyota, hit the like button so more drivers see it. Subscribe if you want weekly breakdowns that put the power back in your hands instead of the service writers. And if you've ever paid a dealer for something a 30-second reset would have solved, tell me about it in the comments. The more we talk about this openly, the harder it gets for anyone to keep charging 4 figures for a procedure Toyota built into the car for free. Your car isn't broken nearly as often as you've been told, and now you have the proof.